One sec. Okay, and we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another episode from Breaking News Show. Excuse the meowing, I have a little baby over here. I'm here today with none other than one of the three of danger, Mr. Nyasha, King of Quick Stop F1. How you doing, man?
I'm good. It's nice to be introduced. Normally, I'm the one introducing people, so I never actually get introduced myself. So, very nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy. It is my pleasure to have you here with me today.
No
And
worries.
we today, I think, well, since it's the summer break, I don't think we have to discuss how much subject we have to cover. First of all, we start with Mr. Sir or Mr. What am I talking about?
Yeah,
Sir Lewis
yeah. Put
Hamilton.
some respect on his name.
Yeah. So we have Sir Lewis Hamilton with four podiums out of five. Two of them are wins. Something, if you told me at the start of the season it could happen, I'll tell you you're bluffing or smoke something, or we'll be just talking about I can't wait for that Ferrari contract starts and we can see something different. But here we are today in summer break. I think you could not find happier than Team LH around the F1 fandom. How do you find the first start of the season or the first half of the season arriving into the summer break, and what are the things that are mostly piqued your interest
About Lewis Hamilton's season,
in
right?
general,
In
Lewis or
general, well, I
anything?
guess, I guess I think in the beginning of the season, when we saw Red Bull come out with what looks like, they had the thin inlets on the side pods, and they were running like, I think what the first four, the five races. And we just thought, I think everyone just thought, wow, we're going to be in for a pretty similar season to 2022, 23. Um, which, whilst you can respect, I guess, a sporting kind of side of that from Red Bull side of thing, I think from an entertainment point of view, just wanting to see those battles up front, no matter who it was, whether it was, Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, we didn't think that we were going to get that. So I think having that switch from Miami with McLaren coming in and being able to take that fight to Red Bull, and then obviously, yeah, like this Mercedes resurgence, and obviously with that, the upturn in form for Lewis Hamilton, and him being able to kind of showcase his skills, and I think we've seen a pretty like wide variety of types of driving and skills that we've seen from Lewis. We've had like the really ballsy like drive attacking, driving and defending. We've had long tire stints and tire whisperer settings, and then obviously we've also seen that kind of vintage Lewis Hamilton of like off the start line taking control and then controlling a race. And if you told any Mercedes or Team LH that you know the season would come to the summer break with Mercedes in this type of form, and specifically Lewis, I don't think anyone would have really, believed you at all. So it's just been, honestly, yeah, no, Team LH needed, I think we needed Silverstone, and will gratefully take Belgium. And it's a great feeling going into the summer break. I think knowing that for the next 10 races, Red Bull might be the third fastest car, and it's just a shame that championship is not as close as it could be.
Close.
Otherwise, it could have been an incredible end to the season.
I think to be fair to, I mean, as much as I'd like to be like, yes, he had another fumble, yes, Jinx worked. To be fair to Max, to be able to pull 7 wins at the start of the season, now see where Red Bull is. And I think if he didn't get those wins, this championship will be a whole different conversation right now. And
Yeah.
looking at his teammate as well, it's just like I was always saying from the start of the season, if McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari get it together, Red Bull are in shambles when it comes to constructors. Why? Because you're going to have 6 drivers against uh, one driver, and one driver is going to be just being thrown away between them or behind them even.
Yeah.
And we've noticed this with Sergio Perez this season. Like ever since those cars got fast, he just was nowhere. It's like he was in the racing point all over again. Uh, but overall, like as for Lewis, as you mentioned, Lewis is like, the type of guy who he's like a shark, smells blood.
Yeah,
He's a whole different animal,
yeah,
Sharks are usually calm swimming, when they're in their territory, they're not bothering anyone. Smells blood is a whole different conversation. Lewis,
yeah,
ever since he felt that Mercedes can win, he just switched a different button. When I saw him even in Belgium, like attacking the way he did on Perez, and I think he did 3 moves to defend that position in Camel Straight from
yeah,
Perez.
yeah,
I was like, I've never seen Lewis this is before. Like it's not never, but it's been a while not seeing him go for that type of driver. And I was
yeah.
like, you know what? He keeps it. Let him. It's his. And then you have the whole thing with George Russell. I mean, Georgie boy likes to go off the line sometimes, like create his own strategies. It works for him sometimes, but sometimes it's just literally one of the worst decisions we've seen. And I think looking at oh, I'm sorry for this, by the way.
No, no, they want to get involved. They've got opinions they want to share.
All
Bless
right,
them.
here, come here, sit down here. Okay, you're gonna be a co-host now, right? Sit here and, and So, I mean, coming into the summer break, I mean, the one team that I'm still a little bit surprised about, it would be McLaren. I
Yeah,
expected they would pull more than 2 wins. And I
yeah.
don't know, is it driver or is it just team strategy or is it just both? What do you think?
I think it's both. I think you look at Lando, and unfortunately, some of the accusations that have been thrown at him in the past around his ability to handle situations under pressure, to be able to execute when the lights are brightest. Unfortunately, sometimes he does falter under those conditions, and I think we've seen by his own admission, he's made a mistake in Belgium. Probably, we can look at the incident with Max and say that wasn't his fault. It was his fault, whatever in Austria. But again, an opportunity missed. Silverstone, again, were there things that he could have done better? So, in all honesty, I think it's both. But again, the team, Silverstone strategy, could they have done better there? Could they have one pitted Oscar in Belgium? Who knows? Whatever. Some of the strategies they've given Oscar as well have been really poor. Look at his pace at the end of Silverstone, and what could he have done if they just double stacked the cars? So I think we're looking at, as Matt had said on our podcast yesterday, we're looking at a team and a set of drivers who are learning on the go. They're learning on the job, and unfortunately, I think Arsene Wenger had a great quote, when he was talking about bringing through young players. It was like, the risk of playing a young player is that, you have to give them games, but if you give them games, you have to know that you're going to give away points. And I think you've got 2 young drivers, you've got a young team who, in terms of experience, at the sharp end of the grid, and unfortunately, at the sharp end, small mistakes, small decisions can cost you big time, and that's what's happened with McLaren. So it'll be interesting to see as the season progresses. After the summer break, able to recharge batteries, able to kind of look at the operational side of things. Are they able to, I guess, become a more cohesive unit? Are they able to become sharks themselves, smell blood, take opportunities, and maximize the points they need? Because, if Lando is going to win this championship, he needed to finish in front of Max in Belgium. He needed to maximize his the points that he's taken in other races. So he really needs to win. What, 6, 8 of the last 10 races if he's really going to have a chance. At least. So it's a tall order, but if that's what they want, then that's what they've got to do.
I think he needs to pull Lewis Hamilton second half of the season 2016,
Yeah,
which is leave nothing, no crumbs, just eat and leave everyone in the dust and
yeah,
pray that your title contender does something that gives you ever more advantage. And I agree with you. Austria, in my opinion, 2 races where those two came together, and it just felt like they both like over pushing it. Well, I mean, there
yeah,
are races at the end of the day. Like you see Austria, Max was just, I was like, okay, he turned the 2017-2018 switch on, and he was doing whatever he was doing. And
21.
Lando, yeah, and yeah, 21. And then you have Lando overcooking the tires, and we've seen that with him in Imola, but we never saw him get close to Max.
Yeah.
And like in Austria or Spa, he had, I think, more chances in overtaking. In Spa had more chances to overtake Max than he did in Austria, if you ask me, because you have two advantages with the DRS, and your Red Bull is not as fast as it was with the DRS back in days. It's a whole
Yeah.
different car right now, and if you remember at the very start of the season, I think around April is when I did that stupid video of Fred Vasseur doing the Liliati stage entrance.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember, I remember that day, and that quote from Adrian Newey always haunts me until today when he said, "I think the learning curve is flattening, and I don't see how we can take this car, or it's gonna be very hard to basically upgrade this car."
Yeah.
Do you think that's actually we're seeing it now, especially with him not being involved in the F1 team? I think that's it. The second half of the season, they might be the second, third fastest car.
Well, if you were to believe some people that Adrian Newey doesn't even do anything on the car, so why would we even listen to him in the first place? But I think, look, I don't disagree. I think whatever's happened, whether there's a secret thing that the FIA have told them to take off the car that we don't know, whether they've just come to the end of the kind of capacity or capabilities that that car has. I think it's quite clear that Red Bull at this point in time are not able to develop as they would like to, and it almost reminds me of the Brawn 2009 season where they sail off into the distance in the first half. Everyone else gets double diffusers, and then all of a sudden, that car is
Everyone
the
catch up.
third, fourth fastest, and Jenson Button essentially is just trying to amass enough points to win the title. And he, in all fairness, he does it quite comfortably in the end, relatively comfortably. But which is what I imagine Max Verstappen doing, especially because back in the day, I think that was 1 to 6 was the points paying places compared to now.
Yeah.
So I think. Yeah, honest to God, I do think that, and I think Max knows that. I think if Max knew what was coming down the line, and he was like, well, we've got upgrades coming, everything's going to be fine. I don't think he'd be as assertive and as vocally upset as he is with the team. And it's we haven't heard Max Verstappen as vocally upset with this team probably since the Renault engines kept going bang in like 2018, 2019. So I think it's going to be a really interesting season towards the back end, purely because McLaren have got upgrades coming, and McLaren, when they stick an upgrade on the car, that thing sticks and it does seem to work. So Mercedes seem to have taken a step forward as well. So you're looking at two teams who, on race pace at least, look quicker than the Red Bulls. So if Max is, and if George, Lando, Oscar, and Lewis obviously
I was
are able to consistently be ahead of Max, that might be Lando Norris's saving grace. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, for the rest of the season.
I think Lando should just pray that he always finishes ahead of Max, and not only finishes ahead of Max, others finish ahead of
Yeah.
Max if he wants any chance to be in a legit title fight. I think by Singapore he might have some sort of a chance, because again, I keep forgetting this is a 24 race calendar, and you feel like, oh yeah, the season's almost over, but then you're like, we have 10 more races to go, or
Yeah.
11. So the season is still kind of on, but it just depends. Again, a Red Bull could come around in Baku and shut everyone up and be like, yeah, it was all fun and games, but now we're through the back. But the one thing that it's, I think, now at stake for Red Bull, and we have to talk about this, and which was the news yesterday, you have a team that looks most probably in a critical condition to lose the Constructors' Championship. By the way, can you hear me properly?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So you have a team that could possibly lose the constructor championship, right?
Yeah.
Add on top of that, um, their second driver is not driving well. And if we rewind back to the quote of Helmut Marko 5 races ago, when he said, if we come by the summer break and there's a more than 100-point deficit, then conversation will be had. They finished together, I think, what, 120 now?
Yeah.
The difference, something like 120.
Yeah.
And the thing is, not just about the difference, it's just where Perez at. Perez should be P8. If it
Yeah.
wasn't for Georgia's disqualification, he wouldn't have been P7 by now. So what do you think that happened that made Red Bull be like, you know what? Let's just not rush it, bring another driver and put him under more pressure. What do you think made them trust Perez to keep him till the end of the season?
Everything at Red Bull is a power play at this moment in time. You know, you've got a lot of men who would like to be top boss. You know, especially with the passing of Dietrich. I think we're seeing a power vacuum at Red Bull with Christian Horner, um, Helmut Marko, and I guess Jos Verstappen as well, and I guess even Max. Um, and Sergio Perez is a pawn in that, and Sergio Perez is Christian Horner's man. Christian, I think it's very telling. I think after the Grand Prix on Sunday, they interview Helmut Marko. Helmut Marko is, I expected more from Perez. Yes, we'll be having discussions. And they ask Christian Horner, and Christian Horner says, we're a team, we back our drivers, and that's what we're going to do. A day later, Sergio Perez is confirmed in post. So Sergio Perez is Christian Horner's man. Christian Horner is wants to keep him. I think the reasons he wants to keep him is what other options are there. We bring Ricardo in. Ricardo's getting dusted by Yuki Tsunoda at the moment. How can we possibly justify that? And how do we even know that he's going to be better? Look, let's not forget, Lando Norris was dunking over half a second on Daniel Ricciardo at times.
Yeah.
If Lando Norris is doing that to Daniel Ricciardo, Lord
What Max would
knows
do.
what Max is going to do in a difficult Red Bull car, respectfully. So you got Ricciardo. Lawson's not been in an F1 car for a year. Tsunoda, they clearly don't want Yuki in that seat. They're not going to bring Isaac Hadjar into the seat now. There's no one they can bring in that seat. Better the devil you know. And unfortunately, the devil is Sergio Perez, who unfortunately, just is an absolute donkey at the moment. And to be fair, if he was a donkey, as Tony said, you just take him out the back and put him out of his misery. But they're going to work him a bit longer, stick some more hay bales on his back, and see what they can get out of him, and hope and pray that it's enough to get them the constructors. But in all honesty, Red Bull, as a marketing company, they don't really exist for the constructors. What they want is the driver's title.
Drivers.
That's the marketing. That's the kind of, if you ask the general public who was the constructors' title winner in 2021, the most watched F1 season ever, they'd probably presume it was Red Bull, and they wouldn't know
Red
it
Bull.
was Mercedes. So I think, I think you just gotta, they're gonna roll with it. He's gonna, whisper sweet nothings into Perez's ear. Hope that he finds a bit of form. We've got some street circuits coming up, and king of the streets, Sergio Perez. Let's see what he can do. We've got Zandvoort, Singapore.
Hold on, Zandvoort, is it even considered
It's not a
a
street
street
circuit,
circuit?
no, not at
Oh,
all.
sorry.
Sorry, that's
You
not
mean
correct.
Baku?
Baku, sorry.
Baku, Singapore.
Baku in Singapore, yeah.
What
Mexico,
else
not
do we
Mexico,
have?
yeah.
Oh, Las Vegas. But even Las Vegas,
Vegas, yeah, Vegas. That's the one, yeah. So we've got a few street circuits coming up. We'll see how it goes.
I know. Well, I mean, in all fairness, is that like you think about it? Okay, yeah, I know. Okay, just sit here for a
What a
second.
key! Oh
So
my god.
yeah, so I think the one thing that for me was confusing me a lot, and a lot of people. So in the fandom, there are a lot of people who confuses between constructive criticism and hate. Nobody's hating on Perez. It's just the fact that when Max had the winning car, Perez was nowhere near. And the only time he showed up for it, it was Japan and China, where Red Bull looked evidently had a fast car and they pulled the gap. So it's like, and he still finished like what 20 seconds behind his teammate. So
Yeah.
the gap was there to for everyone to see. Now that Max is reeled back to the other cars, that 20 gap stayed, but he was just moving back the order more and more and more. So
Yeah.
this is where you would usually need your second driver. And I know a lot of people think that Red Bull have not helped Checo enough. What do you want from them?
Oh, come on.
He-
This is big boy sports, okay? This is not the junior series. This is not like play. This is the pinnacle of elite athletics. And I'm sorry, like the numbers don't lie on a regular basis. What has he scored, like was it 26 points in like the last 7 races or something? That's pathetic.
10
Like,
points. 10 points, I think, in the last. Hold on, I have to pull this. I
yeah,
saw this. Hold on.
that's fine.
I think I saw Jay post this, and I think it was like 10 points or something like that. It's ridiculous. I think oh yeah, I got it. Yeah. Oh, sorry, my bad. In the last 8 races, he scored 28 points. You're right.
28 points. There you go.
While
So
Max scored 141 points.
it's pathetic. It's and whether it's whether there's reasons behind that, whether he's not comfortable with the car, whether he's short on confidence. End of the day, it's pathetic. And you know where you are a public figure in a big sport, as especially one where the facts and figures are there for us to see, and the mitigating circumstances. This isn't someone who's suffering with reliability issues. This is someone who, in a car which should be doing a lot better, is not doing a lot better, and you know unfortunately, it's a trend. He is. If this was any other driver, we'd be saying his skills are decreasing as he ages. This is a guy who's come out of his peak and is no longer able to do the tire whisperer things that he used to do at Racing Point in Force India. He's no longer. We're not seeing any of this Mexican Minister of Defense rubbish that we were seeing before. What if you had to tell me now? What is the good thing that Sergio Perez does? No one can do it. Not even Perez fans. And it's a shame. Now, do I think if he went to another environment where he was team leader, the car could be built around him, and the pressures of being at a front leading team would be less? Maybe he could do a better job. Maybe he would. Maybe we would see the real Sergio Perez. Right now, what we're seeing is a shell of an F1 driver. It's actually quite sad to witness, and I can only see it going one way, to be honest, and that's worse because it's been getting worse and worse and worse and worse.
Uh, you mentioned a good point that he come off the peak of his performance. Like 2020, I think was one of his best seasons, if
Yeah,
not the
great
best.
season.
And everyone had nothing to say about Perez in that season, given what he did and the fact he shouldn't have been the one kicked out of that team because it's unfair. But
Yeah,
I
for sure.
understand he had like a Carlos Sainz moment, which is you have the chance to sign a four-time world champion. Uh, you're not gonna say no to him. But sadly for him, because the team was owned by Daddy Stroll, and Stroll is driving that team, you have
Yeah,
no chance to stay in that team. It's obvious. It's the same conversations we've seen around Aston Martin now. It's like, right, you could have finished second or third last season in the constructors. What have you been doing if you didn't have one proper driver and you had one? You had Fernando who somehow reversed his age for a couple of races, and now he's back to being grumpy because the car is literally not working in his favor, which
such
is
a
I don't
shame.
blame him. It is because now I'm sure he's biting his nails, wishing if that car was fast now to be in the mix, not when he was comfortably in the second or third and nobody's around him. Other than that, like I see, uh, Perez had the most help he could have ever got from Red Bull. He was performing bad already, and they went and gave him 2-year contract.
Yeah,
Did that help him or motivate him? No, just he kept declining and doing worse. And ever since Monaco, when he said, "Yeah, from that point on, I'm gonna be motivated, focused, not worried about anything," boom, into the wall. out in Q1, crashes with Magnussen and Hockenberg, which is good to see him out of that because that was
Yeah.
big. And just like stinker after stinker after stinker, as you mentioned, and you're like, okay, why Red Bull would give him 2 years? Because we've never seen them be nice to a second driver before. And then why you just making more excuses for the guy? If anything, I think they're just waiting for the Mexican Grand Prix to go by if he's still dropping these stinkers, and they'll be like, right, Checo, adios at the end of the season.
Oh yeah, no, no, that guy's. If they keep him beyond this season, I will be. Then I will buy into the fact that he's got something on Christian. Like honestly, I can't. I cannot fathom a world where, given the performances, which is why I'm surprised Checo Perez isn't in the conversation for some of these seats. But I guess who's going to buy out that contract? That's the thing. He's almost put himself into a position where he's got a 2 year contract. If someone wants to take him on, they'll have to buy out a year of that
One more
contract.
year.
That's an incredible amount of money. So we could see a situation where this could be Sergio Perez's last season in F1, which would be a shame. And I think you're right. I think if the Mexican Grand Prix had happened already, I think they would have probably got rid of him by now. But I think going into the Mexican Grand Prix, the car's rubbish. You've just got, you've announced that you've got like a driver in there who's not Sergio Perez. Look, let me tell you now, there's Perez fans do not play. They do not mess about. I've seen them up close when I was in Austin. They do not play about Checo.
I
Like,
I saw them in Jeddah as well. Like just one wrong word, and you're gonna see hands
oh,
fly.
bro, like I thought if I said anything wrong, I'd be in the back of a van after the race. It was like not for me. Like honestly, absolutely so passionate that his fans.
Yeah.
For me, like for sure, I think it's a smart decision. Let him have his home race. Maybe that could be somewhere where it kind of cultivates a little bit inside him. Maybe he can, imagine if he somehow won in Mexico. What a send off that would be. So yeah, let's see. It's all out there for Sergio. Hopefully the summer break helps.
I agree with you, and I see somebody here said, Shah, all Max's teammates have failed, though. Do you think there's a fundamental problem with that team and their second drivers developing a car that only one type of driver can drive? I mean, you answered your question, I think, over here. They are
Yeah,
second drivers. They are not there to develop a car. They're just there to be dropping results and help the number one driver to, in case he needs a help with the strategy and undercuts or overcuts or defend hard like he did against Lewis in multiple occasions in 2021. That's the type of driver you need him. Perez was that guy in 2021. And
yeah,
everyone was like dunking on Bottas, but like, well, Bottas, the season that mattered more, where are you? And Perez is doing that. Now the conversation is different. Like he's not that guy. I think the 2 years, it was just personal opinion. I think the 2 years of dominance of Red Bull kind of made him relaxed. Feel like,
yeah,
yeah, chill, like get second or third in the driver's standing and constructors in the back. Nobody's gonna even fight you for it.
yeah,
All good. And Red Bull never cared about it because they knew that nobody's close to them to even fight them for the constructors. Now, again, see how things can switch quickly. Like now they're like, and I agree with you what you said. I think if anybody could have the legit files, it's probably him because this is the only explanation I can come up with on why this guy is still there. Because I didn't see Albon get this mercy.
no,
I did not see Gasly, who had slightly worse stage than Albon, but again, you have to remember his experience. Didn't see him get this much mercy from Red Bull. Like they were literally dunking and joking on the guy that even made him leave the team.
yeah,
And Alex is the same thing, except Alex like is just a nice guy and did not want to smoke and accepted the reserve driver thing. And yeah, until he found himself a seat and look at him. So yeah, if anything, I agree with you. If they don't want Yuki, then the only sensible thing is to put Daniel. Why? Because he's constantly driving. If you're gonna put Liam, on that pressure, who haven't driven in a while, as you mentioned, then it's just only unfair. And
Yeah.
I pray for Yuki to take that Fernando Alonso seat when Honda moves to Aston Martin.
Yeah. I mean, I think especially if Aston Martin don't show signs of progress, I think that Honda seat, I think Alonso might, look, Alonso's what, 42, 43 now?
He just
Um,
turned 42 yesterday, by the way.
yeah, okay, well, happy birthday.
Happy
Um,
birthday.
so I think, he can't go on forever. And I think, where is that motivation going to be there if the team is going backwards and backwards and backwards? The Honda Yuki partnership, Honda pretty much kept Yuki in a job after his first season in F1. I think by all intents and purposes, Red Bull wanted to get rid of him, but that kind of Honda partnership and whatever, I think really helped Yuki stay in a job. So I think hopefully. I'd love to. I think Yuki deserves to stay in the sport. I think Yuki is, at the moment, one of the most consistent and better drivers on the grid. I think it's almost underrated, some of the things that Yuki Tsunoda does on a week by week basis in a car which is clearly not a front runner, but he's consistently, where possible, picking up those points, picking up those good results. And
Q3's
what was that, sorry?
Q3 appearances.
Q3
Q3 appearance.
appearances, yeah, exactly. You're not wrong there at all. So, yeah, I'd love to see Yuki stay in the sport, and I'd love to see him kind of grow into that kind of team leader role, and with that Honda backing, and I'd love to see, at a brand like Aston Martin as well. I think that'd be awesome. Who I don't think do enough with that brand name as like a British brand and such a classic car.
Yeah.
I don't think they do enough just with the marketing and branding of it. There's so much you could do, and like we just get the occasional Bond thing, and it's just a bit.
I mean, the thing I think with the I know, yes, Stroll should be out of F1. Tell them. The other thing is what I would okay, yeah, go on. So the thing is about the whole thing with Aston Martin is that even before signing Alonso, they weren't even paying attention much to marketing wise for that team.
Yeah,
And then you have Alonso come in, and they're like, right, we have a huge fan base here to explode, and still didn't do much.
yeah,
When Aston Martin came in hot at the start of the season, that is like the biggest turnaround in any F1 team we've seen do in a very long time.
yeah,
And yeah, it was just like a dream for all Fernando Alonso fans, because I'm sure those guys, they were just praying for points, and all of a sudden they see themselves. It's not a slander at Alonso fans, please, por favor, don't kill me. So what I'm saying is, like, seeing your driver go from fighting for points, all of a sudden he's constantly fighting for podiums, and even at some stage he had a chance to win a race, at least like Monaco.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
that for me I see, but now it's just like all dead. And
yeah,
it's just I don't see, I don't know what's going on with Aston Martin, but I think the one man we're still waiting to hear something from him and to flip the switch would be Adrian Newey, and where would be his
yeah, for sure. Well, I think what I was actually going to say was, when's the last time you actually saw Force India, Racing Point, Aston Martin? When's the last time you actually saw them develop over the course of a season? It's always come out of the gate. And look, before that was because of financial, issues. They didn't really have the money, especially before the cost cap, to compete with other teams who were able to put money into developing the cars. So you almost gave them, a kind of a pass for not being able to do that. But at the moment, you're looking at a team with all the resources. You've got a team with,
Aramco.
all of the money. Obviously, we know that they are building on their infrastructure, and that is improving, and they are adding to their technical team, and they're still improving on that side. But that team consistently arrives out the gate. This is the car, and then it goes, comparatively compared to everyone else, it goes backwards, and it almost falls off a cliff in terms of performance. They
Yeah.
put upgrades on the car, the upgrades never work. and that's something that we've consistently seen, even in the Daddy Stroll era. So, the one missing piece of that jigsaw, I think, would be Adrian Newey. It's interesting. All of the rumors on that have kind of subsided, and I guess we're expecting. This guy has an early leave. He doesn't have to take that much gardening leave. So,
Yeah,
we are, I guess, over the summer break, we are expecting potentially to get that decision on where he's going to go. I don't think it's going to be Ferrari. I think that's quite
I think
clear.
that ship sailed. Yeah, it
So, I
looks
mean,
like
but
that
who
ship
knows?
sailed.
James Vowles, has he got another trick up his sleeve? Has he got another rabbit to pull out the hat? Because if he can get Carlos Sainz and Adrian Newey into Williams, my God. And honestly, the longer it goes on, the more I
Listen,
think, does
you kn-
Adrian fancy that?
you know what the thing is, and I think if Mercedes shows up with a rocket engine in 2026
Yeah. Which is
and they
likely.
bag Adrian, most likely, yeah, and Adrian Newey joins them, Carlos Sainz is gonna look like the smartest man
Well,
alive to pull that. And
why do we think he signed? Like, what has James Vowles told Carlos Sainz about the project? How has he been able to convince him? What was the wait? What was Carlos Sainz? Obviously, we think he was waiting for Red Bull. We think he was waiting for Mercedes, but I think we know that he knows. I mean, I guess the Perez news came out pretty much the same day the Carlos news
yeah,
came out, but what does Carlos Sainz know that convinced him to go to Williams as a project as opposed to going to Audi as a project? And It would be so interesting to see. I would love it if Adrian Newey went to Williams. I think that is a beautiful story, and yeah,
for
I'd love
them
to
to
see
come
it.
back from the rubbles and just climb back again. And again, it's a historic team with many championships and many legends drove for that team. And then you get uh something skipped my mind. I was about to say over here. I think what Williams now need is just to pray for that engine to be good. And I
Yeah,
think Adrian is just biding his time. He does not want to deal with another Renault hybrid nightmare because
yeah,
if anything that held him back in the start of the hybrid era is the engines.
yeah,
He was designing good cars, but then the engine is like, I'm not there. So I'd also, given his respectful age, the man is like he wants to enjoy some time in F1, but not overcook, like and just be uh, work like working like a demon, like over hours, like to get something out, like 2021. You
yeah.
want something that is clean. Project is there, and yeah, give me the car, I'll design it. As long as you guarantee me the engine is good, then I'm gonna join it. The one thing that I still don't get it, because I know during the start of the season when we saw the news, I think the first bombshell that dropped, it was Lewis. Lewis is the reason why the season is so good. The
Yep,
man started the domino effect, like
yep,
drop those pieces, and
yep.
now we have seven winners, four 1-2s, and it's like this whole season took a whole different. And the second bombshell was Adrian Newey leaving because of Mr. Horner's shenanigans. I think it's that much obvious. I know a lot of people will say it has nothing to do with that, but
Oh, come on, man. Like, of course it does. Like, look, come on, we're all adults here, okay?
yeah,
You've got someone, and of course, again, it's all a power play. Everything at Red Bull, it's like keeping up with the Red Bulls in that place. Like, honestly, it's a drama, it's a soap opera. And you look at that team, and fair play to Christian, he's rode out the storm. I think it was a very powerful statement having the Thai owners on the grid with him, backing him, saying, look, we own this company at the end of the day. Christian is the guy we want. Christian is the guy that we're backing. And if you don't agree with that, then fine. Jos Verstappen, he's tried as much as possible to disrupt it in the press. That stopped. Adrian Newey maybe wanted, more power. There's people saying Adrian Newey doesn't do that much. He said, okay, if that's the case, cool. I'm bouncing. I'm going. I'm sure you guys have got this if I don't do that much. It's fascinating, the kind of, like you say, the two, I guess, in the driver market, the domino effect of Lewis going, and I guess in the technical market, the I guess with Lewis going to Ferrari and Ferrari hiring people, and Mercedes losing people, and Red Bull losing and hiring people, whatever. It's going to be 2025. It's going to be fascinating because we've
I
got the convergence of the cars. But 2026, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, I agree with you. 2026, I kind of feel skeptical about it, but I'm praying it just turns to a banger regulation. I don't care how fast the cars are slow, as long as the field is closed. That's all that matters. But before sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, no, no. I was just going to say, it's hard with new regulations, isn't it? We never really, every time there's been a big regulation change recently, one team has aced it and the rest have had to catch up. So,
Yeah,
yeah, we hope and we pray that that the regulations bring immediate kind of closeness, but I think the good thing is that Mercedes supply half the grid anyway, so um, hopefully that helps.
I mean, the one thing that I've said when I saw that Carlos going to Williams, I said they have the strongest driver lineup in the midfield, unless Audi decides to pull something different. Because they have Hulkenberg. Currently, in my opinion, him and Yuki are the two best in the midfield.
Yeah,
Yuki and Hulkenberg this season, hands down,
100%, 100%.
God's work, chef's kiss.
Yeah,
They're doing amazing.
yeah,
Unless they decide Audi to bring another strong driver next to Hulkenberg, then for me, my opinion will stay with Sainz and Albon. Both of them are talented, don't get me wrong. But Hulkenberg, it just feels like for me a whole different animal. I know a lot of people will slag him for zero podiums, zero wins, zero this, zero that. But then when you see him, what he's doing in the midfield and with that car, and in Austria to hold Perez behind him is mental.
yeah,
To be in a Haas and hold a Red Bull behind you, I don't care. The cars now is 80% of the whole thing. 20% is a driver.
yeah,
And yeah, for you to do that in a Haas is unheard of in a very long time. I don't think ever Haas finished ahead of Red Bull on merit in ever. So yeah, that's a testament right there for Hulkenberg and what he's doing. But Lewis, however, I need to bring this back because I've said this before ever since this new Rex of ground effect era. Lewis never looked like he's switched on. Not that he doesn't care. No. It's just like, first of all, he's a 7-time world champion. Eight, some
yeah,
people would say. He bagged every record there is possible. Has nothing to
yeah,
prove to anyone. But it's like the car is bad. What else do you want him to do? And I know a lot of people, especially last season, and I don't want to be mentioning drivers and people. You know what I'm gonna mention because it's their quote, not mine. Max saying, "Oh yeah, me and Fernando Alonso have this engineering background," and Fernando Alonso, I think, saying that me and Max have this engineering background. We know how to help with development. I don't think Lewis has that kind of thing. Look at this car now. And
it's always,
also,
yeah.
in all fairness, to also James Allison to sit there and be like, "I'm locked in. Tell me what do you want? What do you want?" And he delivered exactly just that. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's always two dumb bitches telling each other exactly. Like, honestly, don't piss me off, bruv. Like, how many Mercedes and McLaren engineers have to come around and say that Lewis Hamilton is fundamental in the success that they have because of the feedback he's able to give? When you see Lewis first to the track, last one to leave, he's not there to design his clothes. He's not there to work on his non-alcoholic drink. He's not there to see if the Neat Burger burgers are burgering or not. He's there to develop the car. And he's there and he's doing it, and at the end of the day, let's look at the anomaly in Mercedes listening to Lewis's feedback, and we have
Yeah,
2022 and 2023, the worst seasons that they've had in a long, probably since their inception. I'd even argue when they first came into the sport, the car was quick. It just had, tire deg issues, and it used to burn through rear tires like crazy. That 2022 car genuinely might be the worst car that I've ever seen
from a top team.
from a top team. Like, it was embarrassing, that porpoising. So, you know, people that I think people
And
had this in.
then you have them putting their best engineer on the shelf for
Well,
two seasons.
he wanted to go. I think with James, he at that point, I think he wanted to go. Work on the boats. I think he'd had. I think I was reading something about it. I think he'd had, obviously, before he, he'd had, the bereavement in the past, and then coming back, and then intensely working. I think he needed a break, and I think that's fine. And they tried to promote Mike Elliott, who clearly, I think Mike Elliott was not a Lewis Hamilton guy in whatever way. I don't think Mike Elliott was the person to work with Lewis. I think, and then you bring James back, and they've got that relationship, and they've got that kind of understanding. And like you say,
Yeah.
he listened to him, and I think there's even people at the beginning of the season who were saying, "Wow, look at this car that Mercedes have built based on Lewis
Don't
Hamilton's."
let Hamilton see it.
Yeah, well, not too many of those comments now. So I think I think it's yeah, I think it's just one of those things where we'll see how far can that go. What a shame that the car has only come good now. If we could,
Halfway through the
yeah,
first half of the season. Yeah.
yeah, what a season we could have had in general. If McLaren could have come out of the gate with a car, if they put 10 separate upgrades on that car in Miami, or just before in Miami, and look what happened. So, what a shame. But 2025 could be an absolute, we could get a 2021 style season where everyone's just converged. No one's really concentrating on this year's car, because next year's car is the most important thing. So all resources are going into that. We could have a four-way battle for the title in terms of teams. And wow, this could be 2012
I
all over again.
I pray Ferrari get that car right, because it
Yeah,
would be very unfair to have drivers like Charles and Lewis be on the just be on the sideline watching, let's say, McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, the one fighting, and they are just there, to pick up the
yeah,
crumbs or whatever it's left, or
yeah.
take a win here and there. You'd want them to be in the mix. I'm not saying it because of Lewis is going there. Obviously, I'm saying it because Lewis is going there, but
I definitely
like
am.
the, I mean, yeah, I mean, the idea of seeing two drivers like that not being like, even seeing now Charles not being able to compete with Lewis, George, Lando, Piastri, Max, it just seems like, and in Spa, that car had no business to be on the podium or even P4 or the
Yeah,
podium, which is where what he earned at the end of the day. That's just all him
yeah.
doing that. So you would want them to be a little bit more faster than what they are, so we can have a proper season next year. And I agree with you. I think we could have 2012 all over again happening. But we just pray we have our Petrov, and we have a little bit more excitement, because we need a guy like Petrov to be creating shenanigans. Um, Jumping on the from the Mercedes, and we go to their clients, the McLaren.
Yeah.
Now, I know a lot of people want to speak about like Lando, no, could have won more and this and that, but let's speak about Oscar.
Yes,
Little bit
please.
of a horrible start of the season, but this kid just picked off quickly. It's like,
Man,
I don't know.
I'm excited by Oscar Piastri. That move around the outside of Charles Leclerc in Belgium, asserting his dominance, the pace he showed. And I think one of the things that's been thrown at Oscar is, obviously the time management thing. And I think
Yeah,
there's still a bit of that. I think we saw that in Hungary,
Hungary. Yeah,
on the
Hungary. Yeah,
second stint. But man, oh man, when he is on it, when he's just told push, drive that car fast, he is rapid. He is ballsy with the overtakes. He is a big problem for Lando Norris. If he sorts out the tyre deg,
Oh,
Over one lap, he's a match for Norris. You could even argue, he's. I don't think he's we're quite at the superior stage, but he's definitely a match for Norris. On some circuits, for on one lap pace. Although I still think Lando has that, but we're talking about a kid with 18 months experience in the sport right now.
and look what he's doing.
Look what he is doing, and man, I'm looking forward. That Max Verstappen versus Oscar Piastri on track battle, which I don't think we've quite had yet. I think that's going to be incredible because I don't Oscar. You listen to him talking. He's just so unassuming, so level-headed,
Yeah,
so calm. But in that car, he's an absolute Rottweiler, and I can't wait to see him have more battles with. I think him and Lewis seemed to be absolutely stuck together last season. They couldn't get rid of each other, and I think we've seen him battle with his
even
teammate.
sorry,
That's okay.
even the season, Lewis and Oscar in Saudi, they
Yeah,
were
yeah,
on
yeah,
each other the whole race,
yeah, yeah. No,
and that was the beginning of Lewis warming up to go back to his aggressive defensive movements, because Lewis was defending like literally like a lion,
yeah,
and
no.
Oscar is just basically showed to me in that race how fast he is. And
Yeah.
I was like, and yeah, as you mentioned, the whole tire deck. If he gets that sorted out, man, oh man, that kid is gonna be a whole different animal. I
It's
don't think
interesting.
any of the young drivers are ready for him.
No, no, not at all. I think, look, he's the last person, isn't he, to win F3 and win F2 season after season. I think the person before that was Leclerc.
Yeah.
Um, and then, did George do that? So, I'm not sure, I can't remember. So,
Hold on, I'm trying to think. Actually, hold on. I'll pull
um,
this up. But go on.
if you could, yeah. So, what we're looking at here is that's the pedigree of driver that we're looking at. This is not someone who was, and let's not forget, he spent a year on the sidelines after winning F2. So imagine if he'd had an extra year. Alpine, what a
What? I
fumble!
was
Oh
about to say
my
that.
god,
I was
how
about to
you're
say that.
fumbling the hottest talent on the game in the game, having him sit on the sidelines, and then not even considering bringing him into the team, trying to loan him to Williams. Mark Webber, the job that you've done getting that guy into McLaren, unbelievable. And yeah, no, I think the pedigree of driver we're talking about future world champion, and I think we were discussing with Mahad yesterday. If Red Bull do get rid of Sergio Perez, the only place that you can really conceive them going to knock at the end of the season is buying
Piastri.
out one of those McLaren contracts, and it will
Don't,
be
are you not seeing how Helmut is literally like flirting with Oscar Piastri in every press? You'd
yeah,
usually see that. You'd usually see Helmut like usually like what, taking jabs and taking a dig at every driver.
yeah,
Oscar, he's just complimenting that kid to the
yeah.
finest minute details. And I agree with you about if they don't go knock on his door, they have the money to pull those contracts if they want.
They've got 100%. I would be shocked if there wasn't an approach from Red Bull for Oscar Piastri, especially if Verstappen starts looking at that 2026 Mercedes, and he starts thinking, "Oh, it looks quite good over there." And Toto Wolff's been very, very open about the fact that he wants to sign Max Verstappen. So, yeah, let's see. But no, I've got all the time in the world for Oscar Piastri. What a guy! What a character! Um, what a family! Love his mum. I think just what a great addition to the sport, and I think he's got such a bright future ahead of him. I can't speak highly enough of him.
Uh, Now that you mentioned Max and Mercedes, I want to bring somebody up. I want to speak about Max and Mercedes, and I want to speak about Kimi and Mercedes,
Yeah,
which looks like more likely to happen. What do you think? Where does this put in George perspective, right? So I think
Yeah.
George now is having a Nico Rosberg moment. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Nico Rosberg was a teammate of a seven-time world champion, and he thought, "Yep, that's it. I'm the guy now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Schumacher. Retire in peace. I'm
Yeah.
taking the torch." And then they were like, "Oh, we have Lewis Hamilton coming," and he's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and now George is like, "Yeah, well, next season Lewis is in Ferrari. I'm the guy." And they're like, "Oh, Max could come
Kimmy.
around the
Yeah,
corner,
Max.
or
Yeah. Yeah. That would be incredible.
and
Oh
you
my god.
and you see that Mercedes speaking a lot about Max Kimi, Max Kimi. If I was George, I'd be like, "What about me? Do you think Toto?" Okay, let's just entertain this. Do you think Toto was like, "You know what? George is a good driver, and he is that guy whenever he wants to be. Whenever he wants to be. I think Kimi and Max will do fine by me."
Oof.
I mean,
Um.
just let's entertain it for a second right here. Do you think Toto would stab George in the back and be like, "Time to
Look.
go, bro"?
That whole Mercedes garage is a fucking parlor of knives. Honestly, like in Indiana Jones when the trap door comes out and it's just like a bunch of knives coming down on you. Like you can't move for a knife in your back in that garage. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Toto Wolff do that. I think you have to remember. Christian Horner said it himself. They asked, "Who's your favorite driver?" And he's well, the quickest one. And at the end of the day, George Russell is Toto Wolff's baby. That's his project. He has nurtured this guy through the academy, funded his career, put him in the seat, put him into Williams, nurtured him for 3 years there until he was ripe, and then he put him into Mercedes. And by all intents and purposes, George Russell's career has gone pretty much according to plan. He's now a multiple race winner. I say multiple too, but it's more than one. And he's consistently at the sharp end. No matter what we want to say about George, and we do clown George a lot. George Russell is a very, 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 very competent F1 driver. Does he have flaws? 100%. I think his wet weather racing is not up to par. I think his tyre preservation, despite what happened you could look at what happened at the weekend. To be honest, is not is not up to scratch. So I think that those are the areas where I would struggle with George. And I think he's prone to a lapse in concentration. We've seen it in Singapore last year, Canada. And so forth. So
Austria this year.
Austria this year, yeah, he is
Australia. Sorry,
Australia, sorry,
Australia.
yeah, he is prone to it. So, um, having said all that, you would think that George is now going to be the team leader. You're going with Kimi, and that's that. If there's an opportunity to improve on that, Toto Wolff will do it in a heartbeat. And if that is Max Verstappen and Kimi Antonelli, you do another season in F2 because you're obviously not gonna, it's not gonna happen. You're not gonna win the titles, so you stay another season in F2 and then the next year, something happens with George, or we look at George's contract. I think it might expire at the end of 26. So,
Yeah.
so it's all moving parts right now, and it's built on a house of cards. So we'll see what happens. But to answer your question, 100%. Toto Wolff would snake his wife if it meant winning respectfully. So this is a guy that offered Lewis Hamilton a 1+1 deal, and did not improve on that. Didn't even consider ambassadorship, didn't even consider a longer contract. Why? Because he had Kimi Antonelli sitting in the wings. So if you think Toto Wolff did that for Kimi Antonelli and Lewis Hamilton, imagine what it'll do to George Russell for Max Verstappen.
From
Like,
Max Verstappen.
it goes without saying.
I mean, yeah, again, you mentioned this at the start of the pod. This is not a babysitter sport, it's a harsh sport. And at
Yeah,
the end of the day, look, either you're the team principal, you're the driver, you're the one to make the big call.
yeah,
Lewis made the call because he was like, after all these years and after everything I've done for you, 1+1, really? and not
Yeah.
even consider giving me the ambassador. It's not also total. We have to remember that
It's the board.
The board, Mercedes Stuttgart as well. They're like, nah, leave this to the side. And now you see how the board want Max so badly in that car. I think Lewis, in a way, he did the right move. And a lot of people be like, "Oh yeah, Lewis maybe next season would have a chance to win championship with Mercedes." But I don't think Lewis is that. Lewis is just like he went where he's wanted most. You know,
Yeah.
Ferrari were ready to throw all the dollar bills on him. $120 million freaking year. A season. I did the math around it that day. I think Lewis will be getting paid what? Something ridiculous. Hold on. No, I have to do this again. Hold on. So Lewis is getting paid $5 million a race next season.
Yeah.
And not the money part, is the fact that Ferrari said, take the money and we will give you loyalty and ambassadorship for Ferrari. Nobody can say no to that.
Look, they're putting money into his foundation and they're doing equality and
Yeah.
diversity products. They're offering him a multi-year deal. Look, Lewis Hamilton is what, a few years younger than Fernando Alonso. There's every
3
possibility.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's every possibility that if this car is good and they're able to fight for championships, why wouldn't he extend past that? Maybe he will, maybe he won't, right? Ambassadorship. The Ferrari have got their own fashion things that they're doing. They're still going to allow him to do, his things. And for Lewis Hamilton, what makes his own personal brand bigger? Being a Ferrari driver across Europe, in America, in your region as well. Like a Ferrari. Like this is a massive, massive thing. And whether he's winning or not, it's his boyhood dream. Every kid
I
wants to drive a
I
Ferrari.
have to find this picture for you, and I have to when I do, I'll send it to you.
Yeah,
The day when he was announced that he was going to Ferrari, I was driving past the Ferrari dealership. Just it's not like it's on my way, so I
yeah,
know the Ferrari is on my way. And I'll look at it because usually I would go look at it because they have either some GT or even the hypercar on display there. So I would stop by, just take a picture or something like that.
yeah,
And I look at their dealership and I see them having the Lewis announcement on their display screens.
yeah,
And I'm like, I was like, I was like, yeah, I see what Lewis did here. Because
yeah,
what kind of car dealership would put a F1 driver's picture on their main
yeah,
showroom to say,
yeah,
hey, we have a 7-time world champion. I think Ferrari did the reverse Mercedes. Let me explain to you.
yeah. Please do.
Ferrari build their time with the 7 world champion,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah,
Michael Schumacher.
yeah,
And now, when they are not at their best, they brought a 7 world champion to put them back where they're supposed to be.
yeah,
Mercedes brought a 7-time world champion
yeah.
and built with a 7-time world champion. It's like
There you
Ferrari
go.
took the Mercedes blueprint and said, let's do this. Let's just do
Yeah,
this in the most number one. And I think they're lucky to have. Yes, I know Lewis will be a Ferrari driver, and I think Lewis being at the Ferrari next season is just gonna bring a lot of excitement for any marketing team to prey on that chance. I'm not ready for the F1 Twitter fights because it's gonna be years what we could
I'm ready.
witness.
I'm battle ready.
I know. I don't have the energy to be honest with that, but I can already smell it in the air. But other than that, at the start of the season, a lot of people were saying, no, sorry, let me correct myself. Not at the start of the season, when Ferrari started to look good, McLaren looked fast. Mercedes got it together somehow in starting from Canada. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then a lot of people they're like, yeah, Lewis, no way is gonna be in the mix with those guys. Lewis will
Wow.
be the last one to win out of all those people.
Wow.
And then Silverstone came and the man said, hold my records to your face and show them why he's still that guy. And with all the respect to Fernando Alonso, And as much as I started as a Michael Schumacher fan, Lewis is doing at this age what many drivers wish to do, is
Yeah.
still be able to win, still able to compete. And would drivers like, I know Red Bull car now is not at its best, but to compete for the win with the best current driver on the grid and to prove that he is better than, I know, right? Tell them, and to prove it not only once, but more than occasions. When Silverstone takes Max Verstappen in his backpack in Hungary, like be a roadblock to him to the point that
Yeah.
Max is just, that's the most head loss I've ever seen from that guy. And then
Yeah.
Spa, I think, I know a lot of people say George deserves this, but I think if anything, I think Lewis deserves it more. It's just because again we're back to the point of Toto and George. George decided to go out of the way and do something out of his mind. Worked for him, I think, once or twice, and people said this guy's a genius. But then, not every time it just gonna work for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is what it is. I just think Lewis is not what people think it is. It's just give me something to work with now and show you what I can do. It's basically what it is. If you give
Yeah.
me a half-ass job, I'm not gonna give you my fullest attention, basically. And for somebody of his caliber, he deserves to do that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think, look, at the end of the day, um, how do I say this?
I get it.
At the end of the day, like, Lewis Hamilton's been in this sport for 18 straight seasons. There's a reason why he's been in this sport for 18 straight seasons, and there's a reason why he's won a race in 16 of those 18 seasons. Without a break, going every year, getting physically in condition, mentally in condition, coming back from a life changing racing kind of absolute robbery that we saw, in 21. Like, the mental strength of this guy is unparalleled, the skill of this guy is unparalleled, and whether people want to admit it or not, and people have their agendas, yes, no, like, men lie, women lie, numbers do not at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it now. Some people, it's fine and dandy, everything's simply lovely when you're in the best car and you're able to sail off into the distance. Let's see you develop a car out of a rut and move the team forward as a team leader, as Lewis has done 2 championships. And I think people act like, the people who were there and the people who actually watched some of these title wins, they were not handed on a plate. Beating your own teammate is not handed on a plate. Beating Ferrari in a development war and beating a Seb Vettel to your 5th title is not handed on a plate. And we saw how the pressure got to Vettel in
2018.
2018. Come on, the capitulation. Okay? 2020 he probably would have won every race if it wasn't for Mercedes mess ups and COVID. He would have had his Max Verstappen 2023 season if Mercedes hadn't messed up in Monza, if Mercedes hadn't messed up in.
Silverstone.
Was it Silverstone? Oh yeah,
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 Silverstone, yeah.
Silverstone, yeah,
Because there was two GPs in Silverstone. There's the
yeah,
tire one 3 times, and
yeah,
then you have the one with the
yeah, yeah.
Max winning it.
Max, right? And to be fair, Max was incredible that day.
Oh,
So I just think. Oh yeah, Russia as well. I think they messed up on the. Was that
Russia is the
when they
one
messed
with the pit stop. No,
the
the
pit
one with the
stop?
pit stop
Yeah, the
exit.
start
Sorry,
thing. Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
start exit. Yeah,
Practice start. So I just think, for me, if you watch Formula One, put your biases to the side. What we're watching right now is, you know, just excellence at a consistent level. Whether you like him as a person, whether you like his beliefs, whether you like what he stands for, who he is as an F1 driver, what we're
driver.
watching is not normal. And I think people need to understand that and appreciate it. And if they don't appreciate it, then fine, because we will easily.
It's just like basically if he's not that guy, why would even Ferrari go for him? And
Look,
Fred
yeah,
Vasseur said it today. Fred Vasseur said it today. He said, like, look, you guys were saying you guys signed a bum, basically. And now, when Mercedes turned around, you're seeing the real face of the guy. I know the guy. Fred Vasseur worked with Lewis since GP2. He knows
Yeah,
Lewis better than any team principal, better than Ron Dennis, better than Toto, better than anybody on this paddock. That man knows Lewis. And I'm sure when he had that conversation with Lewis and was just trying to be close to him and see if he still has that fire, he saw it in his eyes and like,
yeah,
this guy grew up with me. I know him.
yeah.
So he's coming here. Um, I don't want to keep you so long, by the way. Thank you very much for being here
No,
with
that's
me. And
fine.
thanks for
Absolute
everyone.
pleasure.
No, it is pleasure is all mine. And also, I want to try to bring this around. And I think we mentioned this earlier. I said, is it Fernandover?
Yes.
Because
Finished. Sorry. Like,
I mean, that man last season, when I looked at him, I was like, he looks younger than me. Now when I look at him, I was like, he looks like any man of his age.
yeah.
Do you really think that this man, and you see his radios now, like last season, he was like, I will not undock Stroll. Tell Stroll, please, to try this setup. Please. Oh,
Yeah,
baby,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
in love now. And
Yeah.
this is the ask him. I remember, oh, hold on, which race? I have to remember this properly. Hold on. Was it Hungary? I think
What
it's
back was it
Hungary.
was it Baku?
No. This
Oh,
season,
this season. Okay, yeah.
they asked him, I think in Hungary or something. They're like, uh, any recommendations for set up to give the other car? And he said, good luck.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, I think he's fed up. I think this is what it is.
Well, we've seen it over and over and over again. I'm surprised it's not happened already, to be honest. Like, you know, this is what Fernando does. That's the I guess the yin and yang of his personality is, you have this enthusiastic, supportive, driven, passionate driver who influences and inspires a team to maybe perform right up to the levels of their capabilities. And when that starts to drop, and when that starts to not meet the standards he wants, again, are you a guy that can lead a team and push a team forward in their development, keep spirits high, act as an inspirational leader? I don't think he is. I'm sorry. And people can agree with that, disagree with that as much as they want, but the evidence is there over the course of his career. Look at his career. Look at how it's capitulated in some of those situations. So, um, I would be surprised if he stayed past next year. Oh, mate, has he got a 2-year contract? Did he sign a
Yeah, I
2?
think he has. I think he wants to stay until 2026.
Yeah. So,
2026 was
yeah.
the
So I
end.
guess I'd be so surprised if he stayed past 26. And we'll see. Again, Aston Martin have Mercedes engines. I think every Mercedes team is thinking, if we can ace the regulations, then we're in with a chance of podiums, the occasional win. So Mercedes is clearly the seat to be in 2026.
Also,
So,
it's scary to think about how many Mercedes engines we could see: Alpine,
yeah,
McLaren,
yeah.
Aston
Mercedes,
Martin,
Aston Martin,
Mercedes, Williams.
Williams. Yeah, half the grid.
It's
Yeah,
half of the grid, as you mentioned. I think I understand why Zach Brown went to Red Bull. Said, "Hey, you got any good engine working on there?" Because he's like, he feels like he was okay. I don't want to say it because this sounds bad. He felt like he was the main side check, but now when he sees all
yeah,
these teams
yeah, yeah,
joining to get that engine,
yeah,
he's
yeah,
like, okay, he doesn't want me anymore. He wants somebody else. But to be
yeah,
fair to Mercedes, McLaren now is a threat to Mercedes.
yeah.
And if I was Mercedes, I would be like, you know what? Go find you a Renault or a Ford or a Ferrari, whatever engine.
Yeah.
I can do it. Uh, what do you think about the Alpine and their whole thing with the engine? Flavio Briatore coming back. This team has sacked more people and personnel that actually earned point ever since they started sacking people.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What are your thoughts about that?
Um, I'll be quick because I do have to run in a bit. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think with it's a mess over there. It's an absolute mess. I think we're looking at a situation where there's too many cooks. and they're spoiling the lovely French broth. And all they need is one ratatouille, um, and I just think it's just bringing back Flavio Briatore and taking on Mercedes engines. Like, what a loss of I guess on one hand Flavio is Flavio, and we know what he means to that group, but just there was a 5-year plan, and now then they spend all that money on Ricardo leaves after a thing, and then they hire two drivers who clearly hate each other. When was that ever gonna work? Like, that was so stupid. Of course it went to shit. Then you have, the technical side of things, and then just the performance. Honestly, like, they're almost like, you look in football, you look at teams like Man United, Chelsea, like, all the money, all the resources, but I won't say Man United because at least they're winning trophies. Like, Chelsea, all the money, to do well, and to be a good team, and you look at the results, and it's a shambles, and you're going through managers, you're changing players, and I think that's what it is at Alpine. And I think for me, it's a situation where,
More scapegoats and less solutions.
oh, I couldn't have put it better myself. Yeah, that's the lack of accountability there is staggering, and that's been the case for a while. Look, these guys pushed out Alain Prost, you know,
Yeah,
yeah,
2021.
like, insane. Like, so, yeah, let's see what happens with them, but I wouldn't be surprised if that team just ended up falling off a cliff, to be honest, because there's just they seem rudderless at the moment.
And to close up, and I will leave the final word to you. Any predictions for the second half of the season?
um I'd love to see a winner, like a surprise winner. Like a crazy, we haven't had like a big.
Sergio Perez?
Uh, I'd love Sergio to win in Mexico. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
I mean, yeah, that would go hard, yeah.
I'd probably cry if that happened. Like, that's such an incredible story, and I think I would honestly love for Sergio to win Mexico. Um, but I guess, you know what? I'm gonna say, like, Hulkenberg win. I don't
Oh,
know. I just feel like the way his season's going, and just like, I don't know. I feel like the season's a bit crazy at the moment. It feels like we're having a bit of a crazy one, and I just feel like there's like a pile up or a weird safety car that's gonna leave everything back to front in some way, and I have a feeling I'd love Hulkenberg to get that first win, and to get it in a Haas as well would be
oh.
incredible. So, yeah, Hulkenberg win is a crazy prediction for me.
I'm gonna clip this one if it happens, man. I need to send you a gift for this one, actually.
No worries.
And with
Pleasure's
that,
mine.
thank you very much, Nyasha, for being here with me. And I know, we're almost done. And thank you for everyone. Please, everyone, go watch Quick Stop F1. I don't even have to tell you that because I'm sure most of you do watch them. Who wouldn't? Because I do myself. And
Thank you.
it is my pleasure to have you over here. And thank you very much. And this is our night. Good night.
Take care.
And and